Probably Gacy.
Why?
Because it's creepy as shit.
You guys
The
want
clown
to
thing?
dress up like clowns together?
Fuck yeah.
Bozo?
Fuck yeah, man. Hunting little kids.
Just juggling.
It's a dream job.
Juggling little kid bodies.
I'm Matt Ratz, and today I'm about to ruin a classic, The Sounds of the Lambs. Alright, so the movie starts off. Clarice is running, Jodie Foster is running through the forest, just doing like third grade gym class bullshit. Just running and like jumping over logs. Finally, some guy just running through, like kind of chasing her. It's like, Clarice! And he turns around and he has an FBI hat. So you're like, oh, okay, cool. Crawford comes in and immediately is just like, oh, let me just sit down right now. Props back, like he's getting head the entire time. Yes. The whole time he's sitting there, he's just propped back, like, continue. So it cuts right to Dr. Chilton, who is kind of overseeing Hannibal Lecter. He's like his doctor, kind of. He's leading her to Lecter's jail cell, and it's a psych ward. Like it's just psych patients. It's not actual prisoners. She's like, how about I just go in there alone? And he's like, well, why the fuck wouldn't you tell me that in the beginning? First time we see Lecter, he's just standing in a cell, like a 3-year-old that just shit his pants, smiling. Hello, Clarice. So she's trying to talk to him and get information, but being discreet about it, which she's not at all, because his IQ is like just at the absolute top, so he can smell anything that you're doing. That didn't sound right. He can sense anything that you're doing. Then she's asking about the census thing, kind of trying to be discreet, and she's not, and he just picks up on it right away. He's like, oh, well, the last person that tried to do that, I ate his liver with a nice Chianti. And some fava beans. Just, run back to school. So she's leaving the cell like, okay, I'm not going to get anything left out of this. She's passing his cell, and he's just laying down, kind of like hiding himself, but he's jerking off. And he's like, oh, I injured my wrist. And he just comes. Just shoots a rope at her, and it lands right on her cheek. Just bullseye from like 20 feet away.
He's something about married her.
Yeah, he's something about married this chick. So she finds the head and she takes it. She goes back with that information, and he's like, oh yeah, that was one of my previous patients, and I didn't kill him, but Billy, which is what he calls Buffalo Bill, he's like, Billy killed him. So now we cut to the scene where this random new introduced girl is just singing Tom Petty driving her car, and all of a sudden in the distance you see this guy with night vision goggles just kind of zooming in on her. And then there's Buffalo Bill the first time we see him. And he's got this fake arm cast on, and he's trying to load this couch into his van. And just struggling on purpose, trying to get her to help him. And she's like, oh, I'll be nice and help this guy. And she goes up, and he's like, oh yeah, that'd be fucking great if you could help me. He makes her get in the van first, so that way he can kind of push the couch in on her and trap her. And then he's like, wait a minute. Are you a size 14? And she's like, yeah. And he just cold cocks her and knocks her out. Now they're examining this dead body that they found, which is part of the funeral thing. As it comes out, Clarice looks at it and is like, oh shit, there's something in the throat. We gotta look at it. So they pull out this cocoon, this bug cocoon. They take the bug to like 2 bug experts, which one of them is cross-eyed as fuck. Just looking at her and the ceiling at the same time, just like, what do you see? And she's like, I'm over here. Hey. So she takes it to them, and they start cutting it open to try to find, clues about it, what they can see about it. And they're like, oh, this thing's only grown in Asia.
Cheers. Enjoy.
All right, so then it just randomly cuts to Buffalo Bill's house, and it's just like panning around, kind of looking at all the crazy shit that he's got in the basement. And he's just naked, sitting there, sewing a skin suit. You finally see that girl again, and she's just in the well, kind of held captive. There's the senator on TV. You find out that the girl is actually a senator's daughter. He filmed like this plea to let her go, and she's like, "Please, my daughter is Catherine. She's very fat, obviously." So it cuts to Clarice going back into the cell, to talk to Lecter, and she comes up with this bullshit offer that her and Jack had come up with. Then he just cuts completely and starts asking her about what her deal is. And he's like, oh, like, what happened when you were a kid? And she's like, oh, my dad died. Went to live with, like, some cousins on a ranch and shit. And he's like, oh, did the rancher make you, like, suck his dick? And she's like, no. Like, I just ran away because I didn't want to be there. Put the lotion on. And she's like, no. And he's like, it rubs the lotion on his skin or else it gets the hose again. And she's like, fuck that, no. Put the fucking lotion on. So, and they have him, like, on this dolly. Just some dolly that you'd get from like Ace Hardware, and he's wearing a hockey mask, but it's just like the goalie mask part, so it's just crushing his nose. You can't see anything else. Staring at Chilton's pen, just sitting on the side, and he's just eyeing. It's zooming in and out on his eyes in the pen, and you're like, how the fuck's he gonna steal this? Like, who invited David Blaine to the party? He's just got this whole floor to himself in this giant birdcage cell. She's like, listen, we only have 5 minutes, and he just cuts her off. He goes, no. We will listen now. Which makes no sense because she just asked him to listen. And then he says listen. So she hears, the screaming of the lambs. And that's the whole point of the movie, is that if she saves Catherine, that the lambs won't be screaming anymore, because that's what she wakes up to kind of in a nightmare. He's getting dinner, I think, like some kind of meal. And the guards are bringing it to him, and they're like, oh, he ordered lamb chops, which is obviously a reference to the previous part. He's got the pen from before that he saw from Dr. Chilton that he stole somehow, because he's a magician. As he's handcuffed, he unlocks himself, because that was like his little key to get unlocked. He kicks the jail cell in, hits him in the face, kind of disabling him, and then just goes full Mike Tyson. Walks up to his face and just bites his face off. Next thing you see is these cops all downstairs are looking at the elevator needle going up and down. And they're like, oh shit, someone's going up to the top floor. So now they see the two cops. One's laying on the ground. One's kind of tied up like some angelic scene. And they're like, oh, this one on the ground is still breathing, so let's help him. The cop in the ambulance just pulls the thing off, which is obviously Lecter, because when he took the knife from the jail cell, he had cut the cop's face off and put it on his. Because obviously he's not afraid of human blood because he eats people. Forgot to mention that early on. He's Hannibal the Cannibal. We're in Buffalo Bill's basement now. And it's just him putting on a skin suit, putting on makeup. Meanwhile, Goodbye Horses is playing in the background song, which is like the most iconic scene in the movie. But Catherine is also trying to lure the dog into the well, kind of use it as some sort of bait. But it cuts back to Buffalo Bill just with a robe on, and him like slowly getting away from the camera. Ripping the robe off and just have his nuts and everything tucked back, and he's just got this mangina going on, and he's just dancing on the screen. And he's putting on the lipstick, and he's like, would you fuck me? I'd fuck me. I'd fuck me so hard. Cops are, trying to find his location, so they're calling Clarice. They're like, hey, we know where he's at, we're closing in. But meanwhile, she's putting together clues about what Lecter has said to her before, kind of these little subtle hints. But it's Clarice, because she actually found him, and the cops are at some bullshit location where they think they are. They think they're supposed to be. And they bust in, it's just a vacant house. Clarice is sitting there questioning him, and she's like, oh, hey, is it Miss Lipton here? And he's like, oh, no, she died. He's like, no, wait a second. Was she the great big fat girl? And she's like, yes, she's large. So he's like, oh yeah, I saw that on the news, this and that. But you can come in inside and wait for a minute. Like, oh shit, this is the guy. So she pulls her gun in the slowest fashion ever. Literally the slowest draw. She's like, wait, freeze. He has like night vision goggles and shit. And she's just like looking around because she has no idea where the fuck she is. And he ends up pulling his gun out and cocking it back. And as soon as he cocks back, she hears it, turns around quick, shoots him 5-6 times. And then that's how they catch Buffalo Bill. Cuts to, they're throwing a big party for Clarice. All of a sudden, a phone call comes in for her. And it's Dr. Lecter. Because he escaped, obviously, from the first scene when he ripped that guy's face off. And he's just in, like, Jamaica or some shit. She's like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm having an old friend for dinner. And then you see Dr. Chilton, which is fuck yeah, dude. This guy sucked. Chilton sucked. The movie ends with Lecter kind of free in some tropical area, just hunting Chilton, which is awesome. I ruined a classic, but it was worth it. First of all, if anybody ever guesses your size, run. Because they've obviously been eyeing you up for some weird-ass reason.
Or they work for a carnival.
Or the fucking Men's Warehouse. I've had that happen to me. And I ran.